AITAH for leaving my ex with barely anything? I-34M and X-33F broke up around a month ago. We'd been together for 9 years. She hasn't worked for the last 7 of those 9 years. The reason is because she didn't have to. Call me a mug if you want, but I'm very financially stable and I loved her. I was happy to give her everything she needed and wanted, and she'd expressed that she didn't want to work anymore, so that's what we did, and I was happy to do so. Genuinely thought I'd found the one, so didn't think it would ever be an issue. She broke things off with me. It was very out of the blue and devastating to me. I'll be honest, calm as the breakup was, she didn't seem particularly bothered when she told me she didn't love me anymore. That was the reason she wanted to split. She'd fallen out of love with me. I was obviously upset and honestly shocked. I asked if I'd done anything wrong. She said no, that she'd just fallen out of love with me. And it just hit me like, okay, this is happening, there's nothing I can do about it, but I'm also not going to grovel and beg her to stay. She's clearly made up her mind with how nonchalant she was about it all. I didn't want an argument, I didn't want a huge scene, so I told her calmly but visibly upset to go and pack some clothes and stuff and to go to her sister's house or something, because I couldn't have her there. In that moment I also asked for her key to the house, and she got a little irritated by that. But did give it to me, then left. The following evening, we did talk on the phone. She called me, I answered, we talked, though there was nothing really to talk about. I did say to her, so you really have made up your mind? She said yes, and that this is what she wanted. I can't stress this enough that I really was devastated, and her blasé and nonchalantness to the situation did irritate me because I think in this raw and fresh time, I was confused by it. How she ended 9 years just like that. But clearly, like I said, she'd obviously been thinking about it and was over her side of things emotionally. The following couple of days, I slowly came to terms with it all, and started making plans to organize things. I took her off the car insurance for the car I bought her. And went to get it. She didn't like that. I cancelled her phone contract. She didn't like that either. I'd stopped her access to my bank account, all that kind of stuff. Naturally, she didn't like any of it, but we're not together anymore, and I was paying for all that. You no longer should have access to any of it. It's not a difficult concept. Things got nasty one night when she asked to come over and pick up some more things. I said yeah, because she did still have a few bits here. She came over, I silently let her in and went back to the living room while she went around gathering some stuff in a suitcase she'd bought with her. She came into the living room and picked up a laptop. I said you can put that down, that doesn't belong to you. And an argument then broke out. I ended up looking in her suitcase and there was other things that didn't belong to her, so I took them out while she stood there yelling at me for being petty. I mean, maybe so. I'd let her keep her phone at least after I cancelled the contract. And told her she can keep her engagement ring and do whatever she wants with it. I snapped at her while she was yelling at me, and I said you have nothing. You have the clothes on your back in this house, your makeup, your hairdryer, your hair straighteners. You can take all that, everything else in this fucking house isn't yours to just take. She started crying, and I asked her to leave. She sent me a huge text message basically, in a nutshell, saying I was being unfair. I don't think I have been. I've been real about it all. If we had kids it absolutely would have been a different situation. But this was 2 people, splitting up, one of which, myself, was paying, happily, for everything she had. We are not together anymore. How is it unfair of me to take all that away? You are no longer my partner. It is no longer yours. You no longer have the benefit of having me to care for you financially. How is this not understood and being unfair? She now has pretty much nothing, sleeping on her sister's couch, needing to find a job again. It is what it is. And it's not my problem. Moving on to story 2. AITAH for publicly humiliating my wife at her workplace after discovering her affair? I don't even know where to begin. My wife, Leah 43F and I have been married for 10 years. We have 2 beautiful children, our 5-year-old son and our 2-year-old daughter. I thought we were happy, or at least, I thought we were trying. But 4 weeks ago, my entire life came crashed down. I 46M started to notice when she was glued to her phone more than usual. Leah has always been private, but this was different. She'd smile at her screen, then immediately lock it when I walked into the room. One night, after she fell asleep, I couldn't resist. I checked her phone. What I found still makes me sick to my stomach. There were messages with a coworker, Eric 48M, going back years. Explicit texts. Photos. Promises of love. Even references to secret trips they'd taken while I was at home with the kids, believing she was working late. My heart was racing, my hands trembling. I confronted her the next morning. At first, she denied it, said I was misunderstanding. But when I read her the messages out loud, her face crumbled. She admitted it. She said it started 4 years ago, long before our youngest was born. She tried to justify it, you were distant, we were struggling. But nothing could excuse this. Started digging deeper. I followed her to work one day, needing to see it for myself. Sure enough. After her shift, she walked out arm in arm with Eric. They didn't even try to hide it. They got into his car and drove off. I followed them to a restaurant where they sat like a happy couple, laughing, holding hands. It broke me. But what shattered me completely was when I learned they'd built their own life together. They'd been renting an apartment near work, a place where she'd go when she was working overtime. I saw them go inside, watching them from my car parking on the streets, a few blocks away. I checked on them for about 4 nights, and they had the same routine. That's when I snapped. I packed all of her belongings, everything she owned, into the back of my car and drove to her workplace the next morning after spying on them. I know I did wrong. When she walked out, I dumped everything right there on the sidewalk in front of her and her coworkers. I told her she wasn't coming home. Since then, LVE filed for divorce and am fighting for the full custody of the kids. She's begging me to forgive her, saying she doesn't want to lose the family we built. But how can I? Friends and family keep asking me if I regret how I handled it, publicly humiliating her, kicking her out without notice. I do. She tore our family apart, and the least she could do is face some accountability. But I can't help but feel like the bad guy for how I acted. I had nights where LVE felt very lonely, and I miss her. Of course, I am also attending to therapy sessions to be better for the kids and for myself. All I care about are them, they don't deserve this chaos. And as much as it hurts, I know they are better off with me than someone who could live a lie for so long. Am I the asshole? Thanks for tuning in to today's story. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit that like button to show your support. Love diving into more stories like these? Subscribe to the channel and ring the bell icon so you never miss out on the latest uploads. And hey, if you know someone who'd love these stories, be sure to share this video with them. Stay tuned for more amazing stories coming your way soon.